Is it related? Wow.
Teacher.
Karma.
All right, good evening. This is a Public Safety Subcommittee. We have scheduled for June 11 at 5:30. Mr. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Chairman New.
Here.
Council Chow.
Here.
Council Yem.
Here.
3 present.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Present also Councilor Corey Robinson and Councilor Erica Chia. And we have Chief Craig Houdan and Captain, sorry, Captain, I forgot.
Captain Fay.
Captain Fay, sorry, Captain. We have also another captain there, out there, and other officers join us. This is regarding procedures for processing dog bite in the city of Lowell. In motion response for Councilor Robinson. If my committee members want to defer to the chief and have the chief give a synopsis of what policies is in place now and how that policy, how officers, animal control officers and/or officers trained by that policy and how that policy communicated to the public, and maybe other questions and comments by committee members and/or the councilors here, Councilor Robinson and/or Councilor Jeanette.
I second to have
Good chief.
give,
All right, thank you. Chief, please update us on the policies and how you train that policy to animal control officers and as well as communicated to the public.
Sure. So thank you, councilors. I appreciate you having us here today. So the Lowell Police does have an animal control policy that is in place. We are an accredited organization, and this policy is one of the best practices that is employed by the state through MPAC, Mass Police Accreditation Commission. This policy takes into account a lot of different situations. It's not a case-by-case specific policy. In other words, there are decisions that need to be made on a case-by-case basis and a response to be determined whether animal control will go out or not in certain cases when he's not on duty. So for animal control purposes here, what we have right now is currently 1 animal control officer. We have a 2nd animal control officer that is in the hiring process, and we are hoping to have him onboarded by and starting sometime in July. And a lot of times what we've been noticing is people will call into our dispatch center with calls and concerns. And we noticed that there was a little bit of a disconnect at some point between what the information was being relayed and the response that was needed to be sent. We've instructed through Captain Fay and Deputy Gendro to instruct our dispatchers that if there's any question, to dispatch an officer to make an evaluation of the situation in the case of an animal problem or a dog bite. And then they can make a determination and call the CO and determine whether or not, if animal control, again, is not working, if that person needs to be called in for an emergent situation. Our policy is reviewed yearly, and we are in the process of looking to put together some community information that we can put out on our department website to kind of educate the public on things where animal control will come out for and things that animal control will not routinely come out for, and what some of the homeowner responsibilities are for wild animals that they may encounter.
Thank you, Chief. Councilor Robinson, do you have a question? Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. I have a few questions on the policy. I don't have a copy of it. If I can get a copy,
Sure.
I'd appreciate that. I'm sure my colleagues would like a copy as well. Now, let's say with a dog bite, for example. Is there different actions required based on severity? For one, so a dog bites somebody, doesn't break skin, this is the protocol. Dog bites someone, does break skin, this is the protocol. Obviously, on the more severe ends, separate protocol. In addition, are we monitoring and tracking owners' registration with their dogs, for one? And what's the frequency we're doing that? How are we making sure that these dogs have the immunizations and all of those things? As well as, once a dog does bite, is there a mandatory quarantine? So what does this process look like? Me and my child are walking down the street. My child's bitten by a dog that's roaming. Where do we go from there?
Okay, so dog bites are governed by the City of Lowell Ordinance, Chapter 104, which incorporates Mass General Law, Chapter 140. In any event of any dog bite, it wouldn't matter the severity. It would, and again, you have to understand, is the dog known or unknown? Did it bite a family member or the owner versus a stranger bite? There are many owners that may be bitten that don't report it to us, that may not require them going to a hospital or seeking treatment. If somebody does go to a hospital or seeks treatment, they are mandated reporters to file a bite report with us, and that's one other way that we would know that a bite occurred. When that happens, there is a 10-day quarantine period that would happen. Animal control would go out, identify the owner, they would touch base with the clerk's office, determine whether or not there is a license in place. They can check for microchips, and they can submit to see if the dogs are up to date on their vaccinations. Again, these are if dogs are known. If there are unknown dogs and the dog and owner are not on site, there's nothing to quarantine and there's no way to determine who the dog is. That would be a different situation. Again, it would be a case-by-case basis. Severe injuries, again, it would be the same protocol.
Thank you. So the protocol is the same regardless. It really seems like a question of, is the dog known or unknown? And then that's where it gets a little bit hairy. So in the instance of a neighbor's dog biting a neighbor, dog's known, where's this quarantine take place at that point?
So the dog can be quarantined in the home. If there's any concern, animal control also has the ability to take the dog to a kennel to serve the quarantine. Obviously, that sometimes incurs an additional cost. In our current situation with our current contract, I believe it's about $45 a day. So if somebody is, maybe homeless or not making a lot of money, animal control would probably take into account if that dog can be safely quarantined in the home or to the person. They would probably make those considerations.
Thank you. And we have a resident in the house that is very familiar in this area as well. And I'd love to get some of her thoughts in what she sees as far as best practices in other communities when dealing with this stuff, if possible.
Sure.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Robinson. Chief, isn't that also a duty of the animal control officers to assist residents to access the low-cost veteran and/or vaccination for the dog?
Yes, they can set up clinics and assist with some of those vaccination clinics. That is one of their roles. They would work with some of the local.
Right. So that's in the role of the animal control officer to assist, if need be, a resident who are low income and need low cost in terms of,
Yeah, they have a lot of contacts in the animal control world and can often make recommendations of rescues and places to reach out for some of those services, whether it's neutering or spaying or vaccinations or things like that.
okay, thank you, Chief. Councilor Goodcheer. Captain Fay, you can always come up, you can always come up and comment on it. So let me turn to Councilor
Just a
Goodcheer for-
follow-up to what you said. What is the frequency of the visit from the animal control officer to a home once an animal is quarantined?
So they would go initially for the initial visit, they would issue the 10-day quarantine, and then they would go back at the end of the 10-day quarantine to release it.
Isn't there an outline where they're supposed to go more frequently when an animal is in the state law?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Jam.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A quick question for you, Chief. I mentioned to you before the meeting that I saw the news about 3 days ago. There's a dog that bit a child. The neighbor came to help the child, and the neighbor became the victim of the dog bite. The dog grabbed a hold of her face, her behind, and all of that. And the news report go on to say the neighbor has reported that this dog has been known to the neighborhood that causing problem. In this situation like that, when do the officer determine, are we waiting for first time, second, and a third to remove the dog from the owners, or we assess it and then we determine right away what need to be done?
Right, so part of the job of animal control upon making that visit to the home would be making a determination or an assessment of the temperament of the dog. Animals bite for a variety of reasons. Some of it could be that the person wandered into their space or threatened them and they felt threatened.
Right.
They'll make a determination whether that animal needs to be taken and whether or not, eventually, whether or not that dog or a hearing needs to take place to determine if it's a dangerous dog.
Right.
But there are some times and situations where an animal bites and the homeowners are aware of it and they make alterations to make sure that the dog is not threatening to other people.
In this situation, the dog was ventured out of their home and onto the street, in the neighborhood street, and attacked a child while walking on the street, and the neighbors who tried to help, and not just one neighbor, 2 other neighbors as well. And as a result, the child was spared because the dog go after the neighbors. So in a situation like this, for example, it's the first time, do you think the officer would then assess it and deem dog dangerous and maybe do something with it before somebody else get hurt?
I think in a severe, we've had unfortunate situations like that in the past, and I think in a severe situation like that, an assessment, the dog would obviously need to be quarantined and would probably be taken in that situation so that a good evaluation done by, maybe even by a veterinarian, could make that assessment.
I have another question regarding some owner do have come to the city and get a license to have the dogs and then have vaccinated and everything like that. A situation where the owner do not follow protocol, what would be the officers who respond and saying the dog was never registered, so I have no record if it's been vaccinated or not? So
Right, so they would have, I believe it's 5 days to make a determination before any citation would be written so that they could properly license the dog and make sure that it was up to date on its vaccinations.
And to follow up on that, the licensing, do we have license of all the dogs that in the city of Lowell, that if I could go to the city website, I can check my neighbor has a dog? Can I see if that neighbor has a license?
I don't know if that is available online.
You're in charge of the license, Counselor. I don't think that's available on the website, but it is available from my office. We can run a report at any time.
Okay.
For every dog that's licensed in the city.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir.
Just to follow up on that, Councilor Robinson, hang on a minute. So just follow on that. Would you Mr. Clerk, really, when someone come to your office, the clerk office, and register their dog, would you then share that information immediately with the police department so that they know which dog is licensed, which dog is not, or which addresses? Can you do that?
I think we may be able to, depends on the software that we have. I think there's a way you can share all kinds of information, so if there's a way we can share it, we will. We'll take that up.
I guess MIS should be able to do that, given the $1 million we put into the MIS recently. So, Councilor Robinson.
Definitely be done, Council, if you put $1 million into the clerk's office.
I like you. Councilor Robinson.
Thank you. I just have a couple questions. Through you, Mr. Chair, to the Chief. In the absence of animal control being available if an incident occurs, is it pretty much standard protocol? It would be a patrolman or another officer that would respond and assess?
It should be. We've instructed our dispatchers to not say, oh, animal control's not working. We want them to say, what's the problem? Let us dispatch an officer and let's make that determination of what needs to happen from there. Are we perfect in that regard? Probably not. I'm sure there's some situations where I would prefer to have seen an officer dispatch and maybe they weren't. It's something we're constantly trying to improve and watch and manage, and that's what we try to do.
And again, that's something, it's kind of a slippery slope. I know that we've been facing some staffing challenges, especially in PD, due to just COVID and the academy and all these other things. And the last thing I want to do is pull sworn officers away from what their primary responsibilities are to deal with this. So I don't know, is it a matter of potentially looking at in the future staffing up even above and beyond in this area? Is that something that could help facilitate where you could have staggered shifts and more availability of an AC on call, or whatever way you think that would be accomplished? I think that's something we have to look at, because as you just touched on, we've been hearing quite a bit of instances where, I mean, right now, granted, we only have one AC available, and that's limited. So it's also stray dogs. Whose responsibility is something like that? Dog that's constantly roaming, stray. What is the protocol when it comes to that before it actually bites somebody, or there's an incident, or the poor dog gets hit? What do we do in that instance? I mean, do we just call, hey, there's a stray dog in my neighborhood? Dispatch says, well, AC's not on, and now, hopefully we don't see it again, or what do we do to address those kind of situations?
Again, if there's a situation where they think the dog is a threat or is in danger, that's a situation where it's a case-by-case situation, and we would, if they do believe that that's the case, we would call in animal control. To your point, Council, I do agree, and I don't know if you missed it earlier, we are in the process of onboarding a second animal control officer. We're hoping to start in July. I agree with you wholeheartedly that having additional staffing will help alleviate some of this, including the incredible burnout that our current animal control has been dealing with for months as we've been short-staffed, and I appreciate his dedication, showing up every day despite being burdened. We answer over 3,000 animal control calls a year. We've looked at the numbers of the highest call volumes for animal control, and it's between 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning, up until 10 o'clock at night. And I think if we can cover those hours, it'll certainly decrease on overtime, and B, the need to call in animal control with there'll be somebody working who can respond immediately and assist our patrol officers. If animal control is not working and there is a stray dog, they'll make that determination of whether animal control needs to come in. Generally speaking, those animals are roaming and they're tough to track and running through yards, and they usually will end up at home before we could get a response from animal control in the event that they're not working. If they are able to keep it in sight and either get it home or determine where the dog lives, animal control can also do a follow-up with those residents and speak to them about securing their dog.
Thank you. Thank you. And
You all set, Councilor Robinson?
thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Chief, for being here. I do have a couple comments and questions. But before I start, I don't know if I understand Councilor Robinson correctly. Did you say you have somebody here on the public that want to speak on this issue as well? And if it's okay by the chairman, I would ask to allow a member of the public who is here already to speak on it. Mr. Chairman?
Absolutely.
Yes,
it's
please.
open to the public, so
Thank you, Chief.
go ahead, yes. Would you state your name and address for the record, please?
Well, I didn't know I was doing this today, but.
Blame it on him.
Thanks, Corey. I'm Sarah Canellis. I live at 447 Beacon Street in Lowell, over in Christian Hill. My father came to speak on my behalf a few months ago on a similar matter. Thank you to the officers who took that very seriously and followed up with me. I do appreciate that. I am a member of the community that's currently handling the animal control issues in my community. I work in vet med. I have most experience in dog rescue, so I'm happy to bring any sort of resources or expertise I can to help the community there. I also have a kennel at my house, so I am trapping stray dogs, keeping them at my house, quarantining them, muzzling them, and then communicating with like the local residents to try to find the owners. So I definitely understand the severity of the issues lately because they're at my house. And with that, I came here today, which I'm sure we'll speak on separately, but we had a wild animal that was killed by a resident because she thought that's what she was told to do. So I have children and people's safety will always be my biggest priority, but I am also an animal advocate, so I would like to address that before we leave today. To speak on the canine issues, so just want to address, I've run a dog rescue in Atlanta, Georgia, Scottsdale, Arizona, in the greater Phoenix area, and now I am an administrator for a dog rescue in southern New Hampshire. So I know we mentioned getting in touch with rescues for low-cost veterinary care. That does not exist at the moment. We are facing a nationwide overcrowding issue in rescues and shelters. So there are quite literally $0 to give out vouchers or foster space or veterinary care. So that can be incredibly difficult for our officers or our animal control support to guide these people in the right direction when those resources are not available. So I just wanted to shed some light on the reality of that situation right now. I respect you guys. I don't necessarily agree just with my experience on taking things by a case-by-case basis. I rehabilitate pit bulls for a living. And so I can tell you even dogs that don't seem to be a threat based on what they may look like to an average resident who has zero experience with animal behavior. The silent dog is actually the most deadly. So I would love as a resident to see a protocol that is across the board and not taken by a case-by-case basis. I totally respect everything that everyone's put in place, but just wanted to throw that out there. And
If you could wrap up for us, it would be great.
sorry.
If you could wrap up, it would be great.
Yeah, well, I want to talk about the skunk incident.
The skunk, okay, go ahead.
Okay.
You have a minute.
So we had a resident kill a skunk because she said she called animal control and they told her that they wouldn't. Well, she called the police. They said animal control is not available to help, and that was her own issue, and instructed her to handle it on her own. So that was 3 streets away from me. So as a resident, I think that's the most firm way I can put it. I'm just not okay with that. Also, in the state of Massachusetts, if there's a rabid animal, they need to be sent out. I don't know where the body is, but it needs to be sent out for a brain sample to see if there really is a rabies case in the community, because other protocols would be taken. So I would like to, address that and the rest of the resources. I'm here to help with any canine issues.
Thank you. Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Councilor Chow.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and if the chief could come back to the podium. Again, thank you, Chief, and the other 2 captains for being here and making this a serious discussion. Talk about dogs, our pets, our members of the family. So, we need to take this very seriously. Many I forgot I didn't have my microphone on, so I won't repeat the whole 5 minutes that I just went through, but just thank you and two captains for being here. Serious issues to take care of to discuss this matter. As you know, many residents in the city have pets, have dogs, including myself, and the majority of the pets that we have, majority of the dogs that we have, that they're very well behaved. There might be some small incidents here and there. They might do like a nip, not necessarily a bite. And I'm pretty sure that we're part of the 24 reported bites in the last report that you presented to council last time, Chief. I have 2 or 3 follow-up questions on that. Out of this, we have when you see the number 24 incidents, that seems kind of large up through May. But given the number of pets, number of dogs we have in the city, that's still relatively small. I understand one serious bite is too many. But just to put things in perspective, do we know how many, in this example discussion, how many dogs there are in the city, or how many registered dogs there are in the city?
I don't have the number of licensed dogs in front of me.
Okay. I think that's fine. The other follow-up questions that I have, it seem kind of generalized a little bit as dog bites and incidents. Do we know where these incidents happen? Whether they, you mentioned earlier in the report that some are just family members playing around, could be like an accident in a sense of way, and some are real serious bite, as the other councils have brought up. Do we know like the locations of these incidents, whether they're at home or whether in public space like in a park or on the street? So that would give us an idea, if somebody were to take the dog for a walk in the park, and it might, if they were not on a leash, that would be a different incident of dealing with the issues versus just like an accident in the home in a family member. So do we know the locations of these incidents?
We do, Counselor. We do bite intake forms on every reported bite, and we do have that information.
Okay. And out of this 24, I don't want to put you on the spot. You might not have the statistic in front of you. How many were just happened at home?
6 of the 24 were a stranger dog bite. In other words, it wasn't a family pet biting a owner.
And given these incidents, I know like many of the councilors in here, including myself in the past too, we did put motions to improve and increase the number of dog parks, to expand the the usage of the dog parks. Are there any correlations in terms of dog bites that happen outside the home or in public? Do you know if there's statistics that would provide if there were to be more dog parks, more available open spaces for these pets to play around? Would that create less of an incidence of dog bites?
I would have to look at the numbers again and the locations of those and put together a report on that, Counselor.
Okay, I think that'd be helpful, because all of us, we want our furry 4-legged friends to have like a good place to play, and I think many of the incidents, if the dogs, like you mentioned, if the owners have financial challenges, not able to take the dog out to the backyard and so forth, and just like any creatures, they might get all wound up indoor. They could misbehave, so to speak. So I think we all here sort of would want to see more open space, public space for the dogs as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Councilor Chow. Councilor Robinson.
Thank you. So, the question that came to mind is, I know as a homeowner, certain homeowners insurance companies, they have a list of dogs that your premium pays more. Is that true with registrations in the city? Do we have a standard fee? Okay, thank you. I think I have a couple questions as far as, it sounds like, and I'd like to thank the speaker. I agree. The case-by-case basis stuff is a little bit, I get it, but what can we as a council do to assist in these efforts? Whether it be look to try to provide resources, to partner with local organizations that do the quarantine or something along that way? Could it be doing more of a robust rollout for registrations, vaccine clinics, any of these kind of things, I think my colleagues and I are all ears if you come forward ultimately with some recommendations that would help in these efforts with animal control and some of the local organizations. As we just heard the speaker explain, there is no resources being provided, so we can't really expect some of these organizations to partner with us if we're not willing to try to help work out that partnership. It almost sounds like to me, I think there's a great conversation to have, and I appreciate everyone taking part. I think we have like 5 steps in front of us, the way I look at it. I think if possible, maybe we invite in some of the professionals in the community to work with our police department, with animal control organizations like the speaker that spoke at the podium. Invite them in, collaborate, start hashing out some best practices, review what we currently have. I think you've identified some areas that you'd like to tweak yourself, Chief. And again, I think we're all fully supportive of your recommendations coming forward on this. We adjust it, to fit our community within the resources and means that we have available. I think once it's finalized, I think a key piece in all this is going to be like a serious informational rollout that both internal and external, from everyone from dispatches to obviously your sworn officers to our members of the public, whether it's somebody that gets bit, somebody that owns a dog, somebody that sees a dog roaming stray, all of this. I think information is going to be a huge portion of all this once we have something that everyone feels pretty good about. So I greatly appreciate these conversations. I think I know when I worked for the city for 15 years, and I represented a couple of the animal control officers with the union, it was always one of those areas that it's challenging because you have civilians performing a function and a service for the city that's overseen by offices, and it's just, there's also state mandates that are involved with all this stuff. So it is a definitely balancing act to find that happy medium and provide that service to the public. But I think through this conversation, it sounds like some of the things, challenging areas have been flushed out, and I'm looking forward to continuing to work to improve in this area tremendously. I know this is about the dog bites. I know the speaker did bring up a separate instance. I didn't know if, through you, Mr. Chair, if it's okay, if the chief wanted to comment on that, or rather hold off. I think that's something either way.
Thank you, Councilor Robinson. Chief, if you want to comment on that. Before you comment on that, let me recognize also Councilor Rita Murcia joining us. Chief, go ahead, sir.
I'd just like to thank the speaker. I appreciate the feedback. I don't know if she's looking for a job, maybe something close to home. I'd love to have you. I'd love to hear some collaboration. Like you said, Councilor, a lot of communication and collaboration can go a long way and learn what we can improve upon. And if it's within our power to improve it, all of us here are all for that. With regards to the recent incident regarding the skunk, I would just caution everybody that what is often purported on social media isn't always accurate, and we are often tasked to act on the information that we receive. In this particular instance, the phone call that we received, of which I have the audio recording, in nowhere in that phone call did it report an exigent or emergency situation. There was no mention of anything rabid that would require a response. That's why there was no animal control response. And per our policy, if somebody, which they're not supposed to be doing, is trapping animals, it's expressly not to be done. You're not just supposed to poison or trap skunks. After the fact, when we were made aware of this, we did have animal control go by because of the Facebook post or social media post that then purported it to be rabid, and the speaker was right. We are sending that to be tested. I instructed the deputy and the captain today to reach out to the state to make arrangements for that to be tested, and I will get back to you with those results. But we can only act on the information that we're provided at the time.
Thank you, Chief. Chief, you mentioned Councilor Chow was asking you about the report that you filed, shared with the council, dated May 16, 2024 about the 24 document dog bite complaint. How many of those dog bite complaint end up getting treatment at local hospital or clinic, the individual that have been bit by the dog?
How many of the 24
Yeah.
have needed to receive treatment?
That's right.
I don't know if we broke it down that way. No, I don't have.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
As I indicated earlier, the healthcare profession are mandated reporters regarding dog bites. So if we receive those from the mandated reporting healthcare, then yes, they receive treatment.
It is a concern as well. I mean, you have a 4-month period, you have 24 documented dog bite. And I understand too is that the number of licensed dog in the city, we don't know the number. But at some point, we need to understand enough and encourage people to register their dog because you know that certain breed of dog are more dangerous than other. The one that's not documented, and that is concern to all residents in the city of Lowell. What effort did you have in terms of trying to get the message out there to the resident of Lowell in terms of getting your dog registered is important?
Well, the message is it's the law. You know, people are supposed to be licensing their dog through the clerk's office. We can send out social media reminders. We can work with the clerk's office. We can do everything we can. But if they're not responsible dog owners and aren't registering their dogs, it only comes to our attention when it's a problem or it's reported to us by a neighbor or somebody else. Right. Then we can take action.
Right, right. One other comment. Mr. Clerk, you want
Mr. Chair, just one thing. There was some information request regarding the number of licensed dogs in the city, 721.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. That was quick. Let me just urge you this, Chief. I know you stated at in your opening that we do have policies regarding, in the city regarding, animal, dog in particular. I urge you to communicate those policies to not only the animal control officers, but the officer, as well as to the public, so that they know. I asked you earlier before we start this meeting that it's important to list also a duty or responsibility of animal control officers as much as you can, so the public know what to expect of an animal control officers in the events that they call the animal control officers. That's too is important, I think, so that we don't have residents to say, well, I call and he said this to me and nothing happened. So those kind of things that we need to continue this communication with the public so that they to expect what we can and cannot do for them. Councilor Yam.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Chief, I have a couple questions. One, do we work, the animal control officer work with the Humane Society in Lowell in the situation, a stray dog or some dog that have to be taken away? Do we work with the Humane Society in Lowell? That's my first question, sir.
Yes, Counselor, in addition to the company that we currently have a contract with as well.
Okay. All right, thank you. And we talked about this, and you mentioned earlier about the procedure when someone got bitten by a dog. The victim has the right to file a report, right? I would like you to mention that so that people at home who are watching this hearing or down the road in the future, because it's on YouTube, they know what to do if they get bitten by a dog or family members or friends. So what they need to do.
Again, in any case of any animal bite, we encourage people to call the police department. We will either dispatch an officer if necessary to take a report for the dog bite and follow up with animal control for the necessary quarantine.
Right.
Again, if they seek medical care, we're going to get that mandated report anyway, in which case animal control will follow up with them for the quarantine.
Right. I appreciate. My last question may be for the clerk. Mr. Clerk, you mentioned that we have 721 licensed dog in the city of Lowell. Do you know if that kind of information can be on the city website so resident can search without having to call you? Is that something?
I believe we can post it on the website. I believe we will be able to post that on the
Yes.
website.
Yes, there's no privacy law or anything like that?
Oh, no, it's all public record.
Okay, all public record. So if that's the case, may I make a motion, Mr. Chair, to have all the licensed dogs be listed on the city website for, yeah.
If it's possible that we can do that, we'll
Yes.
do that.
Yes, I know, with limitations, so, yeah, we spend money for the MIS, and maybe hopefully they can help us. So if I could make a motion without having to, all right,
Councilor Chow seconded.
yeah,
Mr. Clerk, go ahead. as well.
roll call.
Well, all of us agree. So, Mr. Clerk, would that be also not only the dog that registered, but also where the dog is located as well, right?
Yeah, there's addresses, yep.
Yeah, everything.
Thank you.
It's on the sheet there.
Councilor Robinson, go ahead.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, to the chief. So, based on our conversation here, I'd like to say thank you for presenting the policy and bringing all this forward. Which way, I mean, I definitely think an educational rollout is definitely something that we need to really start to focus on at some point. Would you prefer, though, working to kind of iron out the minutia details of the policy we currently have, bringing in some people to discuss and find the best practices that you're comfortable with administering through your organization before we try to really move forward in that direction? I mean, I would welcome if you think, you know, a little bit of time, flush through what we have, tweak what you need, speak to who you need to, and engage with the community and in certain areas to see like professionals in the community that are doing other things around this realm, and then maybe come back and present something that you stand behind, and then that way, you know, the council can review and move forward and try to empower you to do the educational, informational. I think if you're onboarding a second animal control, you're saying hopefully July, it might be a good time to kind of iron out all the wrinkles now, and then that way when you're on board, you have something that you're standing on. It's not kind of a older policy that you kind of inherited, and maybe some areas you feel like would be better served done a different way. So I'm open to whatever suggestions you think you'd like to see next steps on this so we can have something finalized.
Chief?
Yeah, I
Any
think
comment?
I'd certainly like to hear comments or suggestions, and we can certainly put together an internal working group to reach out to stakeholders and get their input. And again, there's no secret to our policy. Be happy to have somebody take a look at it and see if there's improvements or suggestions and where that is.
So would that be okay with those committee member here that we reconvene this subcommittee, say in 3 weeks, Chief? Will it be enough time for you? Or 4 weeks?
I'm here. I think it would depend on the stakeholders' availability and who's available for input.
August is fine,
September,
Yeah.
because we have the summer.
the regular meeting, okay. Sometime in September, Chief, so that by then, I would say you would have opportunities to invite people who are expert in this area or with the policies that exist, and tweet it, and then bring back to the subcommittee, and the subcommittee can present it to the full council.
Sure.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, councilors.
All right.
So it's a continuation?
Motion to
Yes,
continue.
yes, sir.
Not adjourn, but continuation?
Yep, yeah.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, we're going to continue it?
Yep, we're going to continue this hearing to September,
Okay.
first week of September, whenever the council meeting is.
Yeah, thank you.
And Mr. Clerk can give us a date on that. Thank you. So motion to adjourn, or continue the hearing.
Right, continue.
Okay, thank you. This hearing is adjourned.